I lost my gym membership when I went through that brief nudist phase that lasted from age 21 to several decades from now.
No, it's not deja vu. It's another Yooka-Laylee First Impressions episode of the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I'm Joe Mudd. Hello.
Joe, hey, fun fact for the people at home who love fun facts, and we're just dying to hear one. Did you know, Joe, that you were on the last Yooka-Laylee episode we did of the Kongversation, all the way back in July 2017? That was the Beyond World 5 episode.
Yes, I remember.
Yes, and I believe on that episode, or maybe, I can't remember, maybe it was off the air while we were recording that episode, brought up the fact that when it came out on the Switch, we had to do another episode, and inevitably, you were the one who first got it on the Switch. How long have you had it on the Switch?
When did it come out on the Switch?
December.
Since December then.
Wow, so you actually adopted it like a reasonable, rational fan when it came out. Me, on the other hand, who did not get a Nintendo Switch until just a couple of weeks ago when they had a nice, hairy Donkey Kong game for me to get my hands on. I just got Yooka-Laylee a little over a day ago for the Switch. So this is going to be interesting. Not that interesting. It's not like I'm totally not familiar with Yooka-Laylee. I've played it extensively on the Xbox. But this version of it, I'm still kind of new to, while you have had it for the better part of half a year. So
yes, and I've also 100%ed it, just like the PC version.
Terrific. So I realize that it's a bit daft to have a Yooka-Laylee First Impressions episode for the Switch when, one, these are not our Yooka-Laylee First Impressions. We already gave those back when it came out in April of last year. And two, it's been out for the Switch for months now. So what's the point? Nobody's interested. Well, because I have some things I want to say about it. And now that I actually have a Switch, I am trying to play catch up with everything I have missed. So I promised we would do one when it came out for the Switch. I'm a man of my word, no matter how long it takes. That's what I say. No matter what I do in life, whether it's waiting for my partner to achieve orgasm or reviewing video game ports for Nintendo consoles, I eventually make good on my promise, even if it takes months. So, all right. First things first, though. Before we talk about Yooka-Laylee again, I do want to bring up some due diligence, because this is the season of due diligence, Joe. We have a lot we need to be diligent about. So E3 is obviously coming right up on our butts in just a couple of weeks, and DK Vine will be there, will be in attendance. I'm looking forward to it. Well, I say that with a Well, I'm looking forward to it with a caveat of my anxiety is through the roof right now, and I am self-medicating more than I should to deal with it and to deal with the workload of everything I need to get done before E3, as well as the stuff I will have to do at E3. And once you get your lodging and your plane tickets and everything taken care of, you feel a little bit better besides the amount of money you just spent on all of that. But that's where our patrons come in. I want to thank our patrons for basically booking DK Vine at E3 this year. I will be joined at E3 with Mitchell Wolf, who will be my roommate in Koreatown. But it's our patrons who made it all possible, allowed lodging and airfare. You know, DK Vine gets in on a media pass. I don't know how. I don't know who the drinker is in charge of that, but we get in every year on a nice media pass. And whatever, you know. We are the press, according to E3, so I'm not going to dispute it. So
that's right. Matt and I got into Eurogamer on the same premise.
Right, which seemed weird then, but I don't know. E3 is always like the big one. E3 is the mecca when it comes to video game news. So it's like, really? We got it? Because the first year, Chad and I just paid our way in, and that was before they made it open to the public, so it cost upwards of $1,000. that's money I still haven't really ever recouped, nor has Chad, as far as just filling that hole in our bank accounts. But now we're on a media pass, and we have been for the last couple of years, so times be good. And I promise when I'm out there, I'll be providing the best, as our, my president, well, somebody's president says, the best
Tina Turner.
Donkey Kong, Rare, and Playtonic coverage you could hope for at E3. And it might not be the best as in, I'm not going to get the access that IGN gets, obviously, but I will have the dedication they lack. Well, they're there to talk about your calls of duties and your Madden footballers. I will be there to talk about gorilla backsides, as Log intended. So, if you're getting frustrated with the big names, said, I need my Donkey Kong news. Where the fuck is my Donkey Kong news? This E3 is ruined. Then you come to DKVine, dkvine.com, and I promise I will provide you nothing but Donkey Kong Rare and Playtonic coverage. So, looking forward to it. We don't know. We don't know what to expect this E3 besides Smash Brothers. And that will cause me to self-medicate right there, then and there, even more so than the anxiety does, because, good lord, this whole Smash Brothers cycle is about to be renewed. The seal is going to be torn asunder. The end times are upon us, Joe. Brace yourself.
Back on the heroin, Hyle?
No. See, heroin would just make me sleepy. I have no desire to be sleepy. I'm all about the uppers, Joe. I'm all about...
yeah.
Well, uppers with an... So maybe like a speedball would do the trick, because it would relax me, but still give me the energy I need to... Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. So, kids, if you're listening at home, that's what you do.
Never heard of speedball before.
I don't need any details. You were with me during the bulk of the Smash 4 release cycle. You were on a lot of those conversations back then. Joe, how are you feeling about Smash Brothers?
Cautiously optimistic. I mean, I like to think worst case scenario it's just the Wii U one all over again. Best case scenario it's got some new content that we will enjoy. But yeah, I don't think there's anything they could announce. If it's just more and more Fire Emblem characters, I don't even care. I'm past caring at this point. It would be nice to play more Smash Brothers on a new console once in a blue moon.
Yeah, I am not optimistic in the slightest, but I'm very zen-like about it. Right now, I'm zen-like about it. When I'm actually out there confronted with 17 new sword-wielding anime boys, then I might have old pains reissued upon my body. But for now,
I just think I've just been so thoroughly worn down that I just cannot bring myself to feel anything anymore.
Well, and I am more optimistic generally about the gaming industry and about our place in the gaming industry than I was back in 2014. We've had the whole Rare Renaissance, and, whatever you may think about Yooka-Laylee or Sea of Thieves, I enjoy the hell out of both. So, I am like, loving where the Rare side of things are for the first time in a long time. Donkey Kong is strong. There's things in the work for Donkey Kong. We just had a successful Tropical Freeze port to the Switch. So, it's, whatever happens. I'm not that concerned about Smash Brothers, and it's not going to ruin my new state of being. So, let Smash Brothers come. We will deal with it. At the very least, it will hopefully have Donkey and Diddy Kong in it. We'll make do.
Yeah. And I will say, I think that we're all still buzzing in that nice warm glow from Tropical Freeze, new funky mode. So I don't really think we need much this E3. It'd be great. I think it'd be great if we get something, but I won't be particularly disappointed if we don't.
Yeah. And in the live stream chat right now, Godzilla Guy 92 says, silver lining, the Smash cycle will be condensed to 6 months or less this time, rather than nearly a year and a half. And that's a great point.
That is actually, that's a really good...
The Smash cycle was just this never-ending... It felt like an American political campaign, Joe. And basically what happens is that's a 2-year process. As soon as the midterms, which in U.S. politics, Joe, the midterms are the 2-year mark after a presidential election when a whole lot of House and Senate races are decided, and it's basically viewed as a referendum on the president. Then, because usually what happens is the party that is not the president, the base of that party, they're so incensed with that president that they run out and they vote and they're galvanized to get the opposing party in power in the houses of Congress to basically cockblock the president's policies. So, cool. And then once the midterms are over, then you've got the build up to the actual presidential election. So the Smash 4 cycle was an entire U.S. presidential election cycle full of primaries and debates and macaroni chefs. I don't want to relive that nightmare. And if they make good on their word this time around, we're not going to have to. Besides DLC, which I'm sure will be a thing. God help us if there's another Smash ballot. Yeah, the Smash ballot was basically a recall election immediately after the normal election. So it was a nightmare. Went,
who would you like in the game? K. Rool? No.
Yeah. That was basically K. Rool won the poll and Putin rigged it. So we got Bayonetta instead.
We got that Mii costume, which is like, well, we're listening, but we still say no.
Yeah, that was basically the equivalent of, oh, you won the popular vote, but you didn't win the electoral college. That was what the K-Roll costume was. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Whatever happens, happens, but I'm sure there will be more to discuss than just Smash Brothers. So, DK Vine at E3, you know, you gotta plug in to DK Vine on social media to really get the full extent of our coverage. So be sure to follow us, DK Vine, on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And you can find us at all three. Just type in either Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube.com, and then /DK Vine on all three. That should work. So, yeah. All right. Real quick, I want to plug the DK Vine hotline. I feel like I haven't done that in a while. And the DK Vine hotline, there's been some confusion over if the DK Vine hotline actually exists for those who don't call in. The DK Vine hotline is real. Call 1-202-630-VINE, that's 8463, and you can leave a message day or night on the DK Vine hotline. We'll eventually, hopefully, take it on the show. Sometimes we miss them. Sometimes there's glitches in our automated service, whatever. We don't get the call. Don't feel slighted if it doesn't happen. We try to get everybody. And you can call us about anything you like. We'll generally save those for a Callsack episode. But pay attention to our social media, and if you're a patron, your email, because we usually provide notice anywhere from a day to 12 hours before we record an episode on that episode's topic. So call if you have thoughts, if you have questions, if you want us to address a particular point that you're not sure if we're going to address, and we'll air it on the show. So that's 1-202-630-VINE, or rather 8463. So yeah, day or night, DK Vine hotline. Give it a call. It exists. It's real. It's not a hoax. It's not a prank. It's not an imaginary story. And finally, I want your help. This is something that came up on the last episode of the Kongversation. We are no longer trying to get beloved 90s romance novel cover model, it's hard to say, Fabio, on the Kongversation. We're done with you, Fabio. You know what? Your time is over. Your luscious man tits are probably sagging due to age. So you know what? You're not the draw you used to be, Fabio. I want to get the new Nintendo president. The new president of Nintendo, who's starting a couple weeks after E3. I want to get him on the Kongversation. And I want to get him on next year's Mario Golf (Game Boy Color) Spotlight episode. Because he's a big fan of a golf RPG right now. It's an indie title called Golf Story, Joe. This guy's a big fan of the game, and I'm thinking, you just inherited a Nintendo. You got to get on the Kongversation to discuss Mario Golf for the Game Boy Color. Its 20th anniversary is next year. I can't think of a better occasion for the Nintendo president to be on the Kongversation. So, do whatever you can. Make calls, print flyers, start hunger strikes, whatever it takes to get his attention, to get him on the Kongversation. We gotta make it happen, folks. Sometime, I think it's like October of next year. That's the 20th anniversary of that game, at least in the US. So, Joe, I know you're going to be doing your part to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to play the game first.
You've never played Mario Golf, parentheses, Game Boy Color?
No. Only the Nintendo 64 and GameCube one, sorry.
Oh, Joe, you're missing out. You're missing out on the illustrious story. There's a character in the... There's a character in the game named Joe. You can play as a character named Joe.
His name's like my name!
Exactly. It's like you're related, practically. So why wouldn't you want to play that?
Oh, yeah. Well, my full name is Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo.
Oh. So, okay. His name is Joey Jojo Jr. Shabado, so... not related in the slightest, I guess, yeah. Alright. Hashtag bring back the spiders. So, Yooka-Laylee. Yooka-Laylee, in parentheses, Switch.
Yes.
Alright. So, I just got the game Thursday night. We're recording this on a Saturday evening, and so I've played a couple hours into the game now. I haven't gotten out of Tribal Stack Tropics, but it's enough to give some initial impressions, especially juxtaposed to you, who have had it for 5 months and have 100%ed it. So,
yes.
I have, full disclosure, been mostly playing the game in the Switch's portable mode, because I figured that would give me the widest breadth of differences between this version and the version I'm used to, which was on the Xbox One. Now, the Switch version, we're going to get technical here, we're going to get nitty-gritty into the specs here, and I had to look this up. I don't have an eye for this. Like I said, I am not technically inclined. I'm about lore and story and continuity. If I was left to my own devices, I would have played this and said, well, golly gee, the Switch version sure is blurrier than the Xbox version. I guess Jesus did it. I should have prayed harder. That would have been me. But turns out the Switch version runs at around 900p when you have it docked in your TV, and around 630p, in portable mode when you're taking it on the go. And that doesn't sound great, especially in the era of 1080p YouTube videos, but Playtonic Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I'm really annoyed that all of these Nintendo Switch games are in 900p, because I thought we were finally done with all these 720p Wii U games. It's like Nintendo are just mocking us at this point, because the difference must be negligible, surely. I feel like on the next console, everything's going to be in 1079p. The problem is, it's like Breath of the Wild and Odyssey. They look great, but whenever I'm playing, especially Odyssey, it just feels like everything just feels slightly blurry and jagged around the edges. Not quite right, you know?
Well, to be fair, 900p is still better than 720p. I mean, we're getting there. Yeah. We're going to reach that rainbow together, Joe. Eventually, Nintendo will get to 1080p when that's not the standard anymore. But
it'd be at the same time that inept reaches 100%.
No, but that's all on the Nintendo hardware. The fact is, Playtonic had to make numerous concessions to get a Unity-developed game like Yooka-Laylee, both looking good on the Switch and also not have it suffer from performance issues. So unlike the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 versions, they didn't leave Team 17 to handle the port. They actually did it in-house. This is what Playtonic was working on from Yooka-Laylee's release in April up until the Switch release in December. So,
yeah.
That
this is probably
shows
for the best, because some consider Team 17's porting to be less than stellar.
Yeah. Apparently, I was playing it on the least favored version. The Xbox One version apparently suffered in comparison to the PlayStation 4 and obviously the PC version. But
yeah.
No, Playtonic did this in-house, and they wanted to make sure this was done right. And that makes sense when you consider that their audience, the bulk or majority of the people that backed them on Kickstarter that really believed in the promise of Yooka-Laylee and what they were pitching were Nintendo loyalists who never really made the jump with Rare to Microsoft. And they've been kind of left without Rare-like games for years now. So they wanted to make sure that they were servicing that audience and that they were going to do it right by their own hand. And there was a lot of frustration that, where's the Switch version? Well, first there was frustration that they canceled the Wii U version, and then frustration that the Switch version came months after the other consoles,
And now they've still found reasons to be frustrated, because, there's a Switch version, but it's not got a physical release, you know?
Yeah, right. They're always moving the goalposts a little bit. I wish there was a physical release. I would have bought the physical release, and I still will buy a physical release when they release one, but
and then it'd be like, but the physical release hasn't got a manual in the box, damn it.
Where's the Game of the Year edition? Fuck! No. I do wish there was a physical release for this, but, I didn't mind downloading it, and the fact is they got the game in people's hands before Christmas, so that was pretty good on them. And I would say that the time and care they took in the Switch version definitely shows, because I think this version, I can't say it's the superior version of Yooka-Laylee, but for what it is, it might be the most accessible version of Yooka-Laylee, just by the sheer fact that you can take it on the go. It's a handheld version of Yooka-Laylee when you want it to be. That's terrific. And I would say that it's damn good that they made sure the Wii U version died an undignified death, soiling itself until the last breath left its body, because there's no way that a Wii U version would have had any legs, besides the fact that Nintendo probably didn't even want them to release it on a Wii U to begin with.
People were annoyed that they cancelled it, because they said it was the primary console for the game or something like that. It was the one game they wanted it to be on. And I think about a year ago, if you'd asked me, I would have said, they should have released it on Wii U. Now I'm thinking no one would be playing it at this point. In the year 2018, all Wii U's are just gathering dust.
Yeah, my wife and I still use our Wii U as a Netflix machine, as I've expressed previously on the Kongversation. But besides that, though, we don't use it for anything. It's Netflix. We use it to watch Amazon streaming video. If we had a Hulu subscription, we would probably use it for Hulu. It's basically that's all it's there for. I will occasionally break, because I don't have like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so occasionally I'll like play Mario Kart 8 on it. If I'm feeling really nostalgic for the original Tropical Freeze, so whenever I boot it up, I can hear the Donkey Kong. I'll play that, but by and large, it's a dust gatherer right now. And it's nice and black, too, so you can really see the dust.
I was going to say, in the old days, think about the first 3 Donkey Kong countries were ported to Game Boy Advance, and they were, looking back on them, a bit of a shit show. Is it great that Returns and Tropical Freeze, their handheld ports, are the definitive versions now? We can just ignore the Wii and Wii U versions forever.
I mean, I think Returns 3D is the definitive version, but a lot of people would disagree purely because of the frame rate. Frame rate doesn't bother me. I mean, I loved Banjo-Tooie, and that game was notoriously bad with the frame rate, but... I'll agree with you, but I will have to throw in a caveat that not everybody will or should agree with you that which version of Returns is superior. But for me, getting rid of the waggle control and
absolutely, that's
the new
big
features,
thing for me.
Yeah. Anyway, but definitely, Tropical Freeze (Switch) is the superior version of that game, even if it's a new canonical adventure.
Of course it is.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about the Wii U was it was beyond moribund when Yooka-Laylee came out. And the fact that Yooka-Laylee came out right around the time of the Switch launch, no, it would be suicidal to have it come out on the Wii U. It's got to be for the Switch, and they made the right decision here, especially because with the Wii U version, there would be nothing to hold it apart from the Xbox or PlayStation versions and make it superior in any way. At the very least...
Hyle, off-TV play. You could play it on the gamepad without your TV. In the same room.
Right, not too far away with nothing huge or dense blocking it, yes.
It's like handheld gaming, apart from the one thing that makes handheld gaming interesting.
It's like handheld gaming, except lacking all the convenience of handheld gaming. Yeah.
Yeah, you put it back.
Yeah. The thing is, the Wii U would have just been a shit inferior version of Yooka-Laylee. At the very least, the Switch version allows you to take Yooka-Laylee on the go with very minimal compromises to be had. Ergo, it's a reason to rebuy Yooka-Laylee if you have it for the Xbox or PlayStation or PC. And I would argue that if you want the definitive Yooka-Laylee experience, you probably should have both. Because I'm not going to sit here and say that, you're getting the best graphical experience with the Switch. There are downgraded graphics. There are new things swapped in to account for the lack of processing power. But playing it on the go with very little stripped out of it, that's wonderful. That alone makes it pretty much neck and neck with the other console versions, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the differences, I noticed very little difference in the graphics. Things like when you walk past bushes, they look a bit more like just big balls of yarn. But apart from that, the experience is largely the same. It's not like the Donkey Kong Country Game Boy Advance where all the Kremlings are bright purple, so you can see them against the the bushes behind them.
I like that because it just made me feel like they were like grape flavored or something. I wanted to lick them all. Because they look delicious.
They look delicious.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and this thing like... sorry, carry on.
No, you brought up the Bushes. And so, George H.W. Bush, I think he was more underrated when it comes to... wait, sorry. No, the Bushes, I don't know if they would look like yarn, although if everything on the Switch looks like yarn, that really makes your Yarn Yoshi games really easy to make. You just say, oh no, it's supposed to look like yarn. Oh, that's it. No, they did swap out some bushes, some other shrubbery, some plants, with new graphical versions of it that are less detailed, but they still look fine. I mean, you're not going to sit there and say, well, that leaf looks a bit shit compared to the leaf on the other version. Fuck Playtonic. No, it looks
exactly.
Great.
Well, the thing is, ultimately, I would never be playing the Switch version and thinking, oh, that looks rubbish. I wish I were playing the PC version. It would look much better. Like, it's simply not a big deal.
Right, exactly.
Again,
without a side-by-side comparison, you are not going to notice. I certainly...
Yeah.
The only thing I really noticed were the obvious things. The sign for the Batship Crazy, I believe, was a bit different, a bit less detailed. The spines on the books in Highbury Towers, I believe they lacked the text on the spine. There were
I would consider that an improvement, because before it was like, jetpacks and butlers, haha, Conquer reference. Alright, what does the next one say? Jetpacks and butlers, and the next one, jetpacks. They're all the same.
Yeah, they really, I mean, hell, I would have gladly done that for free, just come up with book names for them, for every single book in the game. That would have been fun.
Yeah. Thimbleweed Park did that, and in fact, every single book in a library had a short excerpt that a certain backer had written for the game. Considering this game had about 1 billion backers, that could have been brilliant.
Yeah, each backer could have come up with one book title. That would have been great, yeah. But no, it doesn't bother you. I think like some of the lights in Highbury Towers are a bit different. You lose some glowing effects. And then things like shadows and water detail are a bit less impressive. But again, this is stuff you're not going to notice, especially when you're playing the portable version, and it's just not going to dawn on you. Like I think the only time I really noticed it was lighting effects when the light shimmers down at you around the Grand Tome of Tribal Stack Tropics, and then I was like, okay, I can see it's definitely a bit muddier here. No offense, Joe. Than it was on the other version. It's okay. I'm sorry. I realized I was being offensive when I used that derogatory term. I'll never use it again in this episode. I'll never use it again. So it doesn't really. But again, I'm the kind of person who the frame rate in Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D didn't bother me, and I don't really notice it unless I see a side-by-side comparison. So maybe I'm just not hyper attentive towards this sort of stuff. Maybe if you are more tuned in, more keyed into this sort of thing, it will bother you. But again, I would say the sheer thrill of being able to take it wherever you go should outweigh that. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've found myself buying a lot of games I already had on other platforms for the Switch just because it's such a great luxury to be able to play them on the go.
Yeah. In the live stream chat, real quick, Godzilla Guy 92 just wants to add that most of the jaggedness is because Nintendo doesn't use anti-aliasing in any of their titles, not because of the resolution itself. So, okay, yeah, all right. There we go.
Yeah, Pokemon's the worst for that. Pokemon, the pixelation in that game is ridiculous, to the extent that when we see the Switch version, I hope it doesn't still look like a load of shit.
Yeah. But, this is the kind of stuff that would have bothered me with the Wii U, and bothered me with the Wii, and bothered me with the GameCube. Just the fact that Nintendo always has less powerful systems. The Switch, it doesn't bother me because the inherent gimmick of the Switch, it's so great. It's so convenient. It completely changes the way you play a Nintendo console game, that I don't really care that the system isn't on par with its contemporaries.
Yeah, me neither. I would say it's worth it.
Yeah, I think Nintendo finally found a gimmick that makes up for their lack of keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. I think they're able to, at the very least, have a product that sets them apart on the market, where they had that with the Wii, but I mean, again, they marketed that towards casuals and grandmothers, and which worked out temporarily for them, but not in the long term, because all those grandmas died. So yep. It's they I mean, at the very least, they hooked them till the grave, but they never not a great way to build a new audience for the future. Now.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say another thing as well. I remember when the Xbox One was first revealed, it was a laughing stock, and one of the things everyone hated about it was that it was always on. They say, this console is always on, you never turn it off, and everyone went, uh-oh, Big Brother is watching me. But I would find with the Switch, that is actually really, really helpful to just push a button and carry on playing from where you left off like 5 days ago. Yeah. And honestly,
Big Brother watching doesn't really bother me as much as it did back then. Because it turns out I kind of get a kink out of people watching me do things. I'm a bit voyeuristic in that regard. I'm an exhibitionist. So you know what? I like to stand in front of windows with my dong out, and if my Xbox is watching me while I do it, all the better. This is for you, Bill Gates. This is for you.
Well, it's never really that detail has never really bothered me, because my life and myself are so boring that if anyone's watching, they would probably just fall asleep. I mean, they're welcome to watch, quite frankly. It makes me feel slightly better that my boring life is actually considered watchable by some.
Yeah, they're going to see me write Facebook entries for the Donkey Kong lore chronicles. So, yeah, sure. If the government wants to watch me do that, knock yourself out. I love the idea of Mike Pence having to watch me as I write about Jolly Roger and Mary Maggie. So
Yeah. And he's taking notes on how to kill me as well.
oh. Oh, anyway, back to Yooka-Laylee. The big difference that was immediately noticeable was the lack of dancing items on the loading screen, and it was kind of shocking at first. I was like, "Whoa, they're static." They're not because that was the big thing on the Yooka-Laylee loading screens on the other versions was they even had a little joke. In the text blurbs that pop up on the loading screen that it took chuffing ages to get these items to dance or something, and they don't do that on this game, and you don't get that text blurb as a result. So that was the first.
I consider that really odd. I thought surely it doesn't really take much to do that. It's just a couple of animated GIFs or something. But fair enough if that's what it takes.
Apparently it does, and that was the first indication I had to me that, okay, there's going to be significant scale backs in this version that I wouldn't have considered otherwise, because again, I'm not technically minded. I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever, well, like ordinarily the biggest thing that I would notice was the lack of a Conker reference, because I'd be like, whoa, no Conker reference. Now, granted, I take this to be the exact same adventure as Yooka-Laylee for the other platforms, so that text on the spine would still be there. It just, the lighting, you couldn't see it on the Switch version. So.
Oh, the Switch version is through Laylee's eyes, and she's a bat, her vision's not very good. And all the other versions are from Yuka's eyes, and it's much clearer, higher resolution, nicer lighting effects.
Well, I don't know if that works, because you can still see Laylee. Like, it's not like it's a first-person game like Sea of Thieves. So... but good attempt, Joe. I'll give you a B minus, capital B minus on that one.
Well, whose eyes are we seeing the game from then?
It's just from Log's eyes. I don't know. Maybe okay. maybe he went to the optometrist and he got his pupils dilated. Of course, he doesn't have pupil. Whatever he does, maybe
the two pong paddles.
Yes. So anyway, now the loading times on the Switch version, I thought they were quicker, but I've actually researched this, and apparently they're a little bit longer than the console versions. Maybe I didn't notice it because I'm holding it in my hand when I'm playing it, and therefore I have other things to distract me rather than just sitting in front of the TV. But
exactly, yeah. This, I would say, having it as a handheld game significantly reduces the issue of the loading times. Like, if you don't need your TV screen for the game, you could do whatever you want, or you could just go for a walk with your, or go to the toilet or whatever with your Switch. It's just not a big deal anymore.
Yeah, you can look up Yooka-Laylee erotic fan art and, just get a quick one out before the next screen loads up. Leave a bit of the mess for your Kinect to observe. I don't know. What's wrong with... Why am I the way I am? How did I turn out this way? I blame society and my parents. It's not my fault. Actually, though, I looked it up. So it apparently depends on whether you have the game installed on your Switch itself or on a card. So I downloaded it to my memory card, and apparently that takes a little bit longer for the loading to pop up, whereas if you have it on your Switch, it's a little bit quicker, but it's still going to pale compared to the other systems. Okay. I didn't know that, but okay. So, yeah, interesting podcast material. How to make your Yooka-Laylee (Switch) game load very, very slightly faster one way or another, but not as fast as the PlayStation or Xbox versions.
Well, fun fact, the gag about how the game wouldn't need loading screens if it were on a cartridge has been removed. Although said gag didn't make sense anyway if you had the game downloaded onto your hard drive or on Steam like I did.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so Joe, I see here in our notes you talked about the custom achievement system. I didn't actually know this was here yet. So explain this to me and to the people listening. What is the custom achievements system?
Well, you get an achievement every time that you would on all the other consoles and on PC. But there's no pop-up window or anything. You have to exit to the main menu and then select the Achievements tab. And then this shows you all the achievements you've unlocked and which ones you still have yet to get. It's annoying there's no option on the main options menu for this. You have to go all the way back to the title screen, which requires another loading screen. And, there's no fanfare about it. It's nice that they bothered to include it, so you get the same experience as you do on every other console.
Mm-hmm.
But it maybe could have been done with a little bit more finesse, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to me that Nintendo still has no achievements system in place. Because it's just such a standard part of gaming on the other consoles. And part of me is like, oh, Nintendo, get with the times. But also part of me kind of almost admires it. It's almost like defiantly stubborn in the way they do things. They just do their own thing, and that's kind of cool in and of itself. I don't really know which one I prefer. It's honestly, like playing Sea of Thieves, it's kind of irritating having so many achievements because it takes you out of the gameplay to have something pop up like ding. It's like, oh shit, what's happening? Oh, I did an achievement. Okay, that's terrifying, and I never want that to happen again. I'm just going to start playing more poorly as a result.
Well, I think Nintendo has talked about it in meetings. No, in meetings, in interviews and things, and said our games are about having fun, enjoying yourself. They're not about bragging to your friends about how good you are at the game.
And I admire that, yeah.
Yeah, but they did have an achievement system of sorts in Mario Odyssey, which was extremely sloppily implemented in that you had to go and talk to Toadette to earn a moon for every single one of these 60-something achievements. And I've been through that. I've got all of them. And it's just pointless standing there for about half an hour pressing the A button to unlock every single last achievement that you've earned. So, I think it is just a matter of they have no idea what they're doing or how to implement such a thing.
Well, I also like the idea, though, of having achievements in the game itself rather than being some sort of external thing, on a leaderboard or something. I kind of like that it's just like internally within the game itself. It feels more real and tangible to me than the achievements on the other consoles, which always just feel more ephemeral and not really part of the game, just this additional thing that's just kind of annoying how much stock and time people spend worrying about it.
It really is just a matter of bragging rights, really. Whenever I've gone on a crusade to unlock all the achievements in any of my Steam games, it's just so my friends and family can see that I've done it and go and be jealous, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the case for everyone, but that's how it's always been in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I am glad that Playtonic found a workaround, even if it's not ideal, and even if it's something that most gamers will never even encounter. They'll never even see the option on the menu and check it out. So, I don't know. The biggest downside I found from moving to, personally, the Xbox One to the Switch is that the controls take a bit of more time to get used to. And that's no fault of Yooka-Laylee or Playtonic. It's just that the Switch controller cannot compete with the Xbox One controller. And I brought up
controller.
Yeah, I know, Joe. I know. I only have so much disposable income to spend on things. So I just bought a Switch console. I just bought 2 Tropical Freeze carrying cases. I just got Tropical Freeze, and I just got Yooka-Laylee. So you know what? I'm not made of money here, Mr. Joe Moneybags. Okay?
Okay, fine.
All right. Yeah, just Hyle, get a Pro Controller. Oh, Hyle, I haven't even gotten Breath of the Wild yet. What kind of gamer are you, Hyle? Oh, well, I'm sorry, but I am the best gamer in the world. My name is Joe Rockefeller, and I have so much money to spend on gaming, I buy everything because I'm a good gamer.
Okay, now to be fair, I couldn't afford my Pro Controller initially.
Right.
With that fucking price tag, who can? But when I got one several months after I got my Switch initially, I have found it is actually a very comfortable controller. And so it's worth getting. But at the same time, if the Joy-Cons aren't good on their own, that's still a valid complaint. You can't just say, just get a Pro Controller, like us rich people do,
Right, that's like...
So fair enough.
That's like not understanding something in a Star Wars movie and then having a Star Wars fan say, well, that's because you need to read the books.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, no, because just I should be getting the complete experience just out of the box, you know? But yeah, I mean, I will get a Pro Controller eventually. Although, you know, I think the most I'm going to play with the Switch is just on the go. So I don't know how great a Pro Controller will factor into that, you know, the way I play the Switch. So
you just have to play it with some kind of surface to put your Switch on, and then get your controller out of your bag, and then you look like a freak playing a game with a controller in public, and people will laugh at you. So
see, that's a nightmare scenario for me. That's so just cumbersome, and I would be afraid I would damage the Switch somehow, like it would fall over, or somebody would step on it, or no, I'm not going to do that. No, it's going to be whenever I have it out in the wild, I am going to be clutching it with my hands and just a death grip till my knuckles are white. I'm not going to be letting that thing go.
I was going to say one thing regarding controls, though, that has bugged me in the transition from PC to Switch is Nintendo have got A and B the other way around to Microsoft.
Yes.
And so sometimes I'm trying to, which isn't really a problem in menus and stuff. I'm used to having to switch when I do that. But you press A to use Yuka's tongue, don't you? Or there's something that you do to... The button that you use to talk to people is different to the button that you use to talk to people on an Xbox controller. And because of that, I keep accidentally talking to people when I'm trying to do other things.
Yeah, it doesn't feel natural. And I think maybe that's my biggest complaint about the controllers is just... It feels like A should be jump and B should be attack or tongue or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it's been that way around since the SNES. I always tell people Nintendo did it this way around first. It's Microsoft that got it wrong. But no one listens.
Yeah, but it just feels more natural the way Microsoft does it now. I don't know. Of course, I am a hashtag fake paid actor, so what do I know? All I know is what Microsoft pays me to say, right? So, question. Now, this kind of goes beyond just the Switch version. This is more about Yooka-Laylee as a whole, because I realize we're not going to really fill up a whole episode just talking about the Switch version. There's not that much different to talk about. It's more of a curiosity, and there's curiosities to talk about, but at the end of the day, it's still the same game. So my question is, it's been since July since we've done a full Yooka-Laylee episode on the Kongversation. And it's been over a year since it came out, originally, 13 months ago. So, does Yooka-Laylee still hold up a year later? And I realize this is kind of a loaded question because it depends what your perspective is. When I say does it hold up a year later, I'm saying from our perspective, because generally, the opinion of the DK Vine staff, by and large, was that Yooka-Laylee was a fun experience that was definitely worth your time if you're a fan of these old school style rare platformers or any old style N64 platformer. Critical opinion was more mixed and lukewarm when it came out, and I think it was like Sea of Thieves. Honestly, it was a victim of hype that, and especially Yooka-Laylee though. Yooka-Laylee, people projected all sorts of different things onto Yooka-Laylee. What Yooka-Laylee was going to be, rather than just listening to Playtonic about what Yooka-Laylee was going to be. And we quite enjoyed it. I mean, we had some critical complaints about it, but we said, you know, it's not perfect, but it's a fun game. It's definitely scratches that nostalgic itch, and it's you know, it's worth picking up and playing if you're a fan of Banjo. Critical opinions, you know, were a bit harsher than that, and they were looking for something a bit more. Whatever. I'm not saying one is wrong and one is right, but I would say that well, first of all, Joe, what do you think? Does Yooka-Laylee still hold up a year later, or have you kind of cooled towards the game?
No, I'd say it still holds up. It feels like it's going to be one of those games that I come back to and play roughly once a year, like every Donkey Kong Country game, Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie. it's definitely more so than I would play, say, Nuts and Bolts or Donkey Kong 64, which is maybe once every 2 years. But yeah, it's really good fun. It's everything about it I like: the characters, the art, the writing. I would say my own personal opinion has never been negative at all, really. And my second playthrough, I've only loved it even more because this time I've had an understanding of what I'm in for and what to expect.
Yeah,
people who wanted it to be a big revolution for 3D platforming and all that, I've never cared about that at all. I just thought, is this game going to be fun? Is it going to feel like a Rare game? Yes, then I like it.
Yeah, so this is what I would say. Now, myself, I think my opinion has gotten favorable more so than where I was even a year ago. But it's also with a bit more nuance in mind. So this is what I'm going to say. This is what you need to keep in mind to maximize enjoyment out of Yooka-Laylee. Number one, don't think of it as an evolution of the 3D platformer. I think this is just... It should be common sense when you're walking into Yooka-Laylee, especially since it was billed as, this nostalgic celebration of gaming gone by. But I don't know. People thought it was going to be, the next evolution of, say, where Banjo-Tooie left off, and in some ways it was, but it's not an evolution of the 3D platformer. But it's also not a retrograde wet fart like the new Super Mario Brothers series was, in that it isn't just basically a bare bones step backwards. It's not just trying to be Banjo-Kazooie with that's reskinned with new characters. It is doing new things. It's just not doing new things in a dramatic way that would necessarily alienate the people who are looking for that, honestly, retrograde experience. Playtonic had a tightrope walk here to do, and I think they mostly pulled it off in that they made a game that is immediately recognizable and accessible and fun for those looking for another Banjo-Kazooie game, especially those who just outright hated Nuts and Bolts. But they also didn't just rest on their laurels, and they did do new things. Whether those new things were as successful as people would have liked, that's a debate to be had, yes. I think about the whole expanding worlds concept. I think they never really follow through on that to make it as revolutionary a concept as it could have been. And in a lot of ways, they just kind of whiffed on it a little bit. I
quite like it because it's like them trying to have their cake and eat it with Banjo-Kazooie's levels where you could do everything in one trip, and Banjo-Tooie's levels where you have to come back over and over again later with new skills to fully explore the whole thing. It's just kind of like you can do both this way.
Yeah, I'm thinking like specifically of Galleon Galaxy and how they went about doing that where you can't really do anything until you expand the world. You can maybe do one or two things, and then that's it. It felt like they just copped out on some of the promise of expanding the world. And then there were just other things where it just felt like the world was blatantly incomplete without expanding it. And I'm like the second world, the only thing that needed expanded what was locked behind the ice key doors. And I think you really could have done something cool with the concept and really fundamentally changed the way people played the game. It could have been a different experience every time, but to do that, you would have had to have some sort of really complex planning, and I don't know. I can see why they didn't really do more with it, but it also feels like lost opportunity. But hey, that's not to say it really detracts from the overall enjoyment of the game. I'm just thinking out loud here and saying, if they really wanted to revolutionize the 3D platformer, that could have been an avenue they could have taken, and it just feels more like unfulfilled promise than anything else.
It kind of feels like Rare and Playtonic are good at coming up with things that sound awesome, and leave fans with high expectations, but then they're just not really that big a deal in the end, like Stop and Swap.
So, it's not like this is the next step in 3D platforming like Super Mario Odyssey has been hailed to be. And, you know, it's unfortunate because when I announced on Twitter just a couple days ago that I got it on the Switch, people were saying I should have just bought Odyssey. Like, they didn't understand why I would have gone with Yooka-Laylee over Odyssey.
Because you had a podcast to do, damn it.
Well, yeah, there is that, you know. But I'm also a fan of these guys. I'm a fan of the Playtonic team. I'm a fan of Rare. And so, yeah, obviously Yooka-Laylee is going to have more appeal to me. Even if I've already played Yooka-Laylee, then Odyssey is going to be at first blush. And I don't feel like I should apologize for that. That's the weird kind of gamer I am. Just like Nintendo doesn't
probably should still get Odyssey at some point.
I will, Joe. I promise I will. But just like Nintendo doesn't really let the other companies dictate what they do, I don't let other gamers dictate what I do. I'm a weirdo, all right? I'm a Donkey Kong fanatic. Fuck off, everybody. That's who I am.
Well, you know what? Me too. Nuts and Bolts is a good game, damn it. Yep, I've said it now.
No, I mean, Nuts and Bolts is a good game. I mean, it's not the game we wanted. Just like Donkey Kong Jungle Beat is a good game. It's not the game we wanted, but it's a good game.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yooka-Laylee, though. Yooka-Laylee is a good game, but it's also a bit weird because it's designed for a very particular purpose. And this is something that I think a lot of critics missed out on. A lot of even Rare fans maybe missed out on. Because Yooka-Laylee's purpose was always making an old school game for a particular type of Rare fan. A lapsed Rare fan who never went with them to Microsoft, or the Rare fan who has been disappointed with Rare's unwillingness to make essentially Banjo 3E. And look, in that regard, Yooka-Laylee does do a terrific job. It's not necessarily Banjo 3E. It feels more like this side counterpart to the Banjo series. It pushes things forward in a lot of interesting ways, but it's not necessarily picking up where 2E left off. I would say 2E is still the more complex, well-designed game. And I would say Yooka-Laylee, it's a bit dodgier in some respects, but it's in some areas more fun to play. It's definitely got tighter controls. It's a little bit more fun to run around in than it is in the Banjo games. I've discovered, to my surprise, that going back and replaying the Banjo games now, in a lot of ways they pale compared to Yooka-Laylee, because Yooka-Laylee is so much more crisp and has that modern polish and edge to it that the Banjo games from 98 and 2000 just can't compete. No fault of their own, it's just time marches on.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring something up now, or maybe our listeners can explain it to me in Twitch. I don't understand where people are coming from when they say Yooka-Laylee is empty and is barren and there's nothing to do. I don't understand. There's fucking loads to do. There's 2,000 quills and 20 pages in every world. It's huge. And I would say Banjo Tooie is a game where there's occasionally emptiness and nothing to do, like running around Jinjo Village, for instance. Just all these great big huge open spaces with nothing to do in them. And yeah, I don't know if maybe it's because all the collectibles are finite, and once you've picked up all the quills, there's nothing to do in that area again. But I just do not understand this criticism. So if anyone can give me a good example of how Yooka-Laylee is empty, that would be great. Maybe the people who say this don't realise you can expand the worlds, and they've just played the mini version of every level. That's the only explanation I can think of.
Yeah, I don't really get that either. I mean, yes, you do have to occasionally travel long distances, but for me, it's a joy of 3D platforming and has never gone away. It's just running around in an open environment. That was like the initial joy of Super Mario 64, was running around in the castle meadow. You know, that was just the coolest thing. Like, you could just spend hours doing jack shit. And maybe it's because I'm from that generation that first made a leap from 2D to 3D gaming. But I still get great joy of it in Yooka-Laylee as well. So, yeah, for me, I don't care. I don't care that I might have to travel a little bit because it's just fun moving around. And like I said, Yooka-Laylee, they control so well, and it's so fluid and crisp, and it's just a sheer joy to control.
At that point, I still can't believe it's a very bold move that they let you just fly from anywhere with no pads or anything. That is so cool.
Yeah, well, that's the next point I wanted to bring up, so good segue. Now, Joe, I know you can relate to this. Yooka-Laylee is very much, in my opinion, like a Harry Nilsson album. And I don't think I need to really elaborate on that point any further. You get it. You know what I'm talking about.
No, sorry.
Okay, I'll elaborate a little bit. Okay, so Yooka-Laylee, it's like a Harry Nilsson album in that it's eclectic, and each world gives you a very different experience, to the point where sometimes it almost feels like it's not part of the same game. I'm thinking specifically of worlds like Capital Casino, which Capital Casino is a very controversial world when the game first came out, especially because of the bugs that were in it. But once they patched those up, I think Capital Casino is the most successful world in the game because it does do something wildly different than the Banjo series or other 3D platformers. It's a self-contained experience, and it's fun, and I think it's the most well-designed of all 5 worlds, in my opinion. It sounds like you disagree, but...
Oh, no. I agree. It's a well-designed world, but I think my personal favourite's got to be Galleon Galaxy.
Okay, I like Galleon Galaxy. I do. But for me, Galleon Galaxy, that's going to come up into the very next point. The point that you brought up a little bit earlier. I'm thinking, like...
I'm good at these segues, aren't I?
Yeah. Glitter Glaze Glacier, the second world, for me, that was a bit burdened by giving over half the world to this idea, the isometric palace, that kind of felt very alien to a 3D platformer, and it wasn't really the kind of game I wanted to be playing when I wanted to pick up Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah, that's probably got to be the lowest point of the game, to be honest. It's just wrong. So,
like, the wide gulf between Glitter Glaze Glacier, which there's a lot enjoyable in Glitter Glaze Glacier, but Glitter Glaze Glacier versus Capital Casino, or even Tribal Sack Tropics, which was just the most Banjo-like world in the game, and was the most, I felt like I was playing straight-up Banjo 3. And then you have, Moody Maze Marsh or Galleon Galaxy, which I found enjoyable as well. But each world felt very different, and there were different, ways to play, and it felt like each world... Besides the unifying factors that glued them together, like collecting pages and quills and ghost riders and what have you, they did feel very different at times, and you got a different experience in each one. And so that can kind of cloud your perception, especially if you encounter a world, like, say you didn't like Isometric Palace and Glitter Glaze Glacier. That can really it goes on for so long that it can kind of taint Yooka-Laylee if that's where you hop off. Or... if Moody Maze Marsh isn't your cup of tea, then, you might spit out the whole game. And then I think you just kind of have to take Yooka-Laylee's experimentation at face value and just kind of say, okay, this world might not be for me, but there will be something coming along very shortly that will immediately reinvest me in the game. And that's what happened with me whenever my interest started to wane. Something would come along that would just blow me away, and I would be like, okay, I'm back on board. And
yeah, it's cool like that. And I think if they were to make 2 Yooka-Laylee, they'd be able to expand on the parts that work well and just kind of trim away the chaff.
Well, that's always been the Rare MO, is to make a game that's good, but not perfect, and then kind of perfect it with the sequel. Obviously, I'm thinking Country to Country 2. But, you can make the argument. I know everybody has an opinion on this, but you can make the argument that Tui perfected a lot in Kazooie. I would still say Kazooie is the more packs a more powerful punch than Tui does, but Tui is definitely the more adventurous game as far as what the development team did with it. And it just kind of depends on the mood I'm in, which I prefer. So, anyway. Galleon Galaxy, though, I keep thinking about that. One, because it's the world where expanding the world is required to get any enjoyment out of it. And two, it's the world where the game essentially breaks open when you can fly anywhere.
It reminds me of Cloud Cuckoo Land in that respect, which I've always liked because it just gives you one pair of split up pads. Like, you've only got one move left to learn, and then the game's like, okay, go nuts. Do what you want.
The difference with Cloud Cuckoo Land is you could go nuts within the confines of Cloud Cuckoo Land. Here, you can then fly anywhere you want in the fucking game. Yeah. So, it's kind of like you can go back to other worlds and just blow through challenges you haven't done yet. And it almost feels like, why didn't I just save everything for when I have this flight move? Like, just do the bare minimum until I get the flight and go back and just kick the game's ass. And there are a lot of times in Yooka-Laylee where I brought this up before on the initial set of Yooka-Laylee episodes in Season 5, but it felt like the ability to, quote-unquote, break the game, it was surprising how many times you could do that. Even before you did the Flappy Flight, you could essentially circumvent the method that the game wanted you to use to get, say, a Pagey. There were ways around it. And, you know, I kind of liked it at the time because it almost harkened back to the Nintendo 64 days where either through in-game glitches or other means, you could, say, clip through polygonal walls and just be sneaky and kind of give the game the finger and find your own ways to do things. It felt like those herky-jerky days of early 3D platforming where things were a bit glitchier and less polished. And I like that Yooka-Laylee kind of tapped into that, either by design or by sloppiness. I don't know what.
I would say that's another tradition of Banjo games. Like Tui had a lot of that. Like, you'd be able to glide with Kazooie and you'd be able to get jiggies by bypassing a puzzle. And things like you could use Banjo's double jump to get that one jiggy in Atlantis. And in Nuts and Bolts, a lot of challenges you could just take your car apart to build something smaller and faster and breeze through it. And the game, and sometimes it did feel like Rare knew about these bypasses and they just left it in there for you to do if you were clever enough to figure it out. And I feel games should do that more often.
Well, and the thing is, I can't decide in Yooka-Laylee whether this was by design or just by oversight.
And it might be part of the modern video game design philosophy, where you do have to have these things to hold the player's hand a little bit because they're trying to make games a little bit easier to appeal to an easily distracted audience of millennials who will just go off and play Angry Birds if the game's too hard for them.
Oh, so well, I'm sorry, Joe. I was checking my Grindr account. What? Anyway, I don't know what you said there, but yeah.
You didn't hear me?
Oh no! I said I was checking my Grindr account. I completely missed that. But moving on, I can't decide, and honestly, I have to ask myself: does it matter? Am I just looking for a reason to be critical, or should I just accept what Yooka-Laylee is at face value? And at the end of the day, do I have fun with it, even though I can, say, circumvent the way the game wants me to play it? And yeah, I'm having fun with it. I do like Yooka-Laylee, so what does it matter? Should it matter? Are we really all going to be such armchair amateur critics and game designers that we think that a game has to excel at this imaginary art of game design for it to be fun? Or can it just be a fun sandbox experience? And Yooka-Laylee is a fun sandbox experience for me. Not a literal sandbox, but in a lot of ways it does feel like I am playing in just the sandbox. And there are so many ways to play the game, if you know how, that what does it matter if it wasn't by intention or not? Or,
I also find there are lots of moments like this in Mario Odyssey as well.
Okay. And people love Mario Odyssey, so...
Yeah, and I know for a fact there's at least one point where the characters will react and go, "Oh, hey, you found a shortcut to that bit. That was cool. Good for you."
Yeah.
So,
but all this aside, by and large, Yooka-Laylee, I find, is a charming, delightful experience. And if you go in with no conceptions of what it should be, then you're going to have a really good time with it. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but it really does make me smile. And that's something that I kind of forgot, because it's been a while since I played Yooka-Laylee, aside from getting like screen grabs for the DK Vine Facebook page. So playing through it the last day, I was just cracking up at some of the dialogue, some of the writing, some of the Easter eggs. I never noticed that there was an upside down armchair and TV on the underside of the Batship Crazy, for where Laylee, I guess Laylee set it up so she can watch TV perched upside down. That's a great touch, and I never noticed that before. And I love it. Yooka-Laylee really is well crafted in the regard that it's a love letter to fans of that particular era of Rare. Let's say 1998 to 2002 or whatever, the N64 era. I guess that would be 2001. Anyway, yeah. The N64 era of 3D platforming from Rare. So, and I don't know. I've heard it, slagged among the DK Vine audience. There are people who love it. There are people who hate it. But the thing I take away from it is it's definitely not on the Donkey Kong 64 side of things. Like, Donkey Kong 64, you can have nostalgic memories of that game. I certainly do. But Donkey Kong 64 was just, by and large, a bloated, bad game. Had its merits, but the overall package was an exhaustive bloat of a game that substituted chores for fun. Yooka-Laylee is not that. Yooka-Laylee, it's a collectathon, but it's fun, and it sidesteps a lot of the issues that DK64 had. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, like, people are saying, like, Odyssey it's the game that, really does drive 3D platforming forward, and I believe that. I'm not disputing that, but that doesn't mean there's not a place for a game like Yooka-Laylee, which is a throwback that does its own thing. It doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time a game comes out. The question is, did you have fun with this game? I had fun with it.
Well, I think the fact that they approach the genre differently is a good thing, and I would say they're two parts of a holy trinity with a hat in time that will hopefully kickstart a new wave of 3D platformers, and the three games together can demonstrate just how different such a game can be, while still ultimately being designed with that sensibility in mind, that same goal to bring back 90s 3D platforming.
Sure, and I would argue that the goal is to make sure 3D platforming is not just associated with the 90s, that it's just a viable gaming genre that can endure. And
well, I think all three of these games will kickstart a whole new era. I'm calling it.
Okay, yeah, I think we're already in that era. I mean, I think at this point, 3D platforming isn't going to go anywhere, at the very least, especially with the indie gaming revolution. There's just not going to be any oversight or gaps where the big studios who invest all this money in games, they may have trepidations, but there's always going to be indie talent developing this. I mean, obviously I'm somewhat affiliated with Lobo Destroyo, they're still developing that game, and so, we're going to have games, more 3D platforming games continually coming out, and, even if they're, that's the thing about Yooka-Laylee. It is an indie company. Yes, the pedigree has decades of experience there, and they're made up of Rare alum, but they're still an indie studio with less money and resources than your Nintendos have. So the fact that they were able to produce such a well-polished game it's so joyous and makes me so happy when I play it.
Me too.
That just speaks to the amount of talent behind it, that even with maybe limited resources in comparison to your Nintendo, obviously they still had lots of money to work with the Kickstarters and the investors that put their stake in the game. But in comparison to the big leagues, the AAA studios, I think Playtonic did a great job.
Yeah, and I would say that it's a successful game as well. It's definitely sold well enough. It's got a lot. It might have a few noisy haters, but it's got a lot of devoted fans as well. And I think Yooka-Laylee is inevitable at this point.
And I think I've heard less about Yooka-Laylee hate since it came to the Switch. And I don't know
it's all died down.
Yeah, so I don't know if maybe the game just was waiting to find its audience, and its audience was on the Switch. I don't really know. But, I definitely heard less consultation when it comes to Yooka-Laylee than I heard back when it was just on the other two consoles and the PC. So, time will tell, but, and what its ultimate reputation will be, who's to say, but I'm just saying, you definitely owe it to yourself to check out Yooka-Laylee, and now, there's no excuse. You have it on the Switch. If you're waiting for it for the Switch, you can play it now. So definitely pick it up, unless you don't have the disposable income, because and everybody's saying to buy a Pro controller, and you're like, Jesus Christ, calm down. All right, we have a call to take, so I want to play that, and then we will wrap up the episode, and I will bring up a final point I have to make about Yooka-Laylee.
Yo. Hello? Pick up. It's me, Angry Ancestor. I want to talk about the Yooka-Laylee Switch port. Hello? Oh well. I'm literally taking a shit right now, which is a first for me. Usually I'm doing some crazy wild antics when I call in, but right now I'm literally pooping. So, yeah, just thought I should let you guys know. My experience with Yooka-Laylee, I beat it twice within the span of a month on my roommate's PS4 because I don't have any other console to play it on. And I loved it, genuinely. I haven't played it since it came out in April or May or whatever. And I really want to get a Switch so I can buy the game and play it as much as I want. But, I just wanted to retract some statements that I said about a year ago regarding Capital Casino. You and Hyle and Mitch did a podcast about it, and I called in and called it a trash level over and over again. I was just angry, because I'm an angry ancestor. But, it's not a trash level. It's actually a very fun level. It was just riddled with bugs, and I was frustrated, And speaking of bugs, I want to know, be honest, have you encountered any glitches in the Switch port thus far? Because I want to know, because that almost ruined it almost soured my experience of the game. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but, when I beat Capital B, instead of showing the final cutscene, the game crashed, and I couldn't even watch the final cutscene. I had to watch it on YouTube. No one that sucks. That sucked, dude. I was pissed. So, yeah, did they clean up I know, one of the patches that came out a year ago fixed a lot of the bugs, but did you encounter any glitches in the Switch port? Thanks, dude. Hey, check in. Call me back. Thanks, man. Oh, yeah, that was a big one that just came out.
Thank you for the call, Angry Ancestor. Let me know how that poop turned out, too. I want to know the consistency of it and the volume. So, please call back. Well, I'm glad he came to his senses when it came to Capital Casino. No, I'm saying, Capital Casino is now my favorite world of the game. Now, I've had time to ruminate on it. I do love Galleon Galaxy in its aesthetics, but I don't think it succeeds as much as Capital Casino does. Capital Casino is just, I think, the perfect experience. Like, it's what I want to show people, especially now that the bugs are fixed. About
That's
what
a good
you
point. Actually,
Yeah.
I think I might be inclined to agree with you. I like Galleon Galaxy just because it looks really nice and it's such a brilliant concept. But yeah, the casino's probably got some of the most memorable challenges in it, I'd say.
And it's fun, and it's also fun to just do everything in the stage, and it's got variety, but the variety never betrays the core 3D gaming mechanics that the Yooka-Laylee is built on, like, say, Isometric Palace, which or some of Rextro's games, which, a lot of people don't like. I don't really mind the Rextro games as much, but because they're more just short little bursts, where Isometric Palace was basically half the world, and but Capital Casino,
if you could just go between rooms a bit faster, I wouldn't mind. But the boo,
yeah,
it really gets on my nerves.
Isometric Palace always felt like Conker's Pocket Tales rather than Banjo-Kazooie to me. So, which was cool at first, no pun intended, but eventually it grew tiresome, and yeah.
So we should do a podcast talking about the difference between Conker's Pocket Tales Game Boy and Game Boy Color.
Oh, yeah, hey! We've already done the Spotlight episode for Conker's Pocket Tales way back when, but, the 20th anniversary of Conker's Pocket Tales will be coming up, too, next year, so we'll have to find some way to commemorate that.
Yeah.
As far as bugs go, I don't think there are any that I've encountered. Joe, you would know more than I would.
Yeah, I don't think I've encountered any either. I can have a quick look at my screenshots, because if I ran into one, I would have taken a screenshot. I know there's a short video on my Steam of the PC version where I got trapped in a pipe, and the character's just kind of flapping about, unable to move, and that's quite funny. But no, I think the Switch one was pretty glitch-free, actually.
Well, I think by the time the Switch version came out, they had pretty much ironed out the glitches anyway, and the Switch version is, up to date with the other versions. So yeah. I don't think there are any more bugs to be had in Yooka-Laylee until they add more content, whatever this upcoming DLC is. But
so the 64-bit shader as well.
Yeah, it'll only be 63-bit, and they'll have to patch that. The only issues that I've run into with the Switch is you get occasional lag, very, very brief lag, and it's very, very occasional. You'll notice it when it happens, but it quickly sorts itself out, and it never really takes you out of the game or breaks it. You're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm playing on a Switch, all right. But it's never a deal breaker. Anyway, thank you for the call, Angry Ancestor. Don't forget to wipe and wash your hands afterwards.
Yeah, so speaking of number twos, are you optimistic about Yooka-Laylee?
Well, before we get to that, I want to address some comments in the live stream chat. Available to patrons, $5 and up. DKBine.com/Patreon. So, yeah, we've got people talking about Odyssey versus Yooka-Laylee. Cameron Regal, obviously, you know who that guy is, says that he thinks there's room in the market for both Yooka and Odyssey. And it's demonstrated by the fact that he's only finished one of them 100%. There's room for both modest and massive. And that's a good point, I don't think, you get all these perspectives where, well, why'd you buy Yooka-Laylee? You've got Super Mario Odyssey out there. Well, maybe I just want Yooka-Laylee. You can enjoy both. You don't have to have, this definitive epic experience every single time. This ramp up of things that have constantly got to be bigger and better and flawless, or else we're going to, call it trash.
And again, you can throw in Hat in Time to the mix as well as a third option, which is basically a great big love letter to Mario 64 and Sunshine, and that's not being slated for being old or, not as revolutionary as Odyssey. That's considered a different experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just you can enjoy something that's maybe not 100% a masterpiece, but it can still be a flawed masterpiece or almost a masterpiece and still be fun. It can still be an enjoyable time. I think one of the downsides to the internet is that everybody has like convinced themselves that everything has got to be perfect in every way, or else it's trash. It's garbage. Let's just not even give it any consideration. And I think that's a very ruinous, very poisonous mindset to have. It limits your entertainment options very much, and two, it also we're so like dependent on what critics think that we lose the sense of discovery. I remember when you just rented a game from the movie rental place and just tried it out, and maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't, but no harm, no foul. And I miss that sense of self-discovery rather than checking out the site. Like, it was so cool at first when I was online and I could check out IGN. It's like, oh, I don't even need, to rent things from Blockbuster anymore. I can just see if a game is good or not. This will really simplify my life. But ultimately, it just did more harm than good, and I felt like I was missing out on something. And granted, I miss out on a lot of things because I only focus on DKU games now, but that's just the weird turn my life took. I'm not certainly the model for people to follow, so definitely check out Yooka-Laylee if you're a fan of old school Rare or new school Rare, but if you are a fan of the Banjo series or even Donkey Kong 64, if you're one of those weirdos who now take fault with me for not liking Donkey Kong 64 and considering it the perfect video game, then definitely check out Yooka-Laylee because there is so much for you to sink your teeth into here. Don't think of it as Banjo 3E or what a Rare platformer would have been had there been Rare platformers consistently from the year 2000 onward, but think of it as just this weird accompaniment to those classic games. And I think you'll get the most enjoyment out of it. Okay. So, you mentioned Yooka-Laylee, Joe. Now, here's the surprising takeaway I've had after playing it on a Switch for the last day. It's rekindled how much I like Yooka-Laylee and how much joy I got out of it when it first came out. But it also makes me realize, we were talking about the whole sequel thing and how Rare would take a lot of the flawed concepts in their original go and weed them out of the sequel to the point where the sequel would be a masterpiece. I really kind of want to see now what Playtonic would do with Yooka-Laylee now that they've had their first go, now that they have a skeletal system in place to wrap new flesh around. It kind of excites me in a way that it didn't even excite me just a couple of weeks ago, because somebody called in and said, on, I think, the last episode, what are we going to see from Playtonic next? Do you think we'll see Yooka-Laylee announced at E3? And I said, no, we'll see the shell game or whatever else Playtonic has. If we see anything new, that's what we're going to see next. And I still stand by that, but I have to be honest, part of me just wants to get to Yooka-Laylee now because I feel like they've got such a promising leg up on whatever the sequel is now, that the sequel could be that flawless masterpiece that I've talked about. And if you would have asked me, just a week ago, I would have kind of said, no, I want to see what else Playtonic can do. I still do, but I almost think Yooka-Laylee would be the more promising venture because it would be, I think, the most polished experience. And I almost don't want them to jump to a different genre now. I want them to get Yooka-Laylee out of their system while it's still fresh in their mind. That kind of surprises me because I would not have fathomed that before picking up the Switch version.
That's good then. So the Switch version, it's a wonderful thing that it exists then. It's been a great success in that it's allowed us to play the game on the go and it's left us craving more.
Yeah. So Joe, Yooka-Laylee. What, like, this isn't a Yooka-Laylee, like, speculation center or anything, but what would you want to see specifically in Yooka-Laylee that either, like, expanded on from Yooka-Laylee or adds its own thing? Like, what, when you think a potential Yooka-Laylee sequel, what would you want to see?
I would want to see, purely for comedic purposes, we need to have, I want to see a bigger insight into all the characters and their worlds and their families and their lives, and make it feel much more like just a universe full of characters that know each other and live their lives, just a lot like Banjo-Tooie did, how suddenly there was a Mrs. Bottles, there was a Mrs. Boggy, there was a Mrs. Clunko. And yeah, I just think I really like all the characters. I think they're quite well designed and quite well written. And I think there's a lot of potential to expand on the characters and their roles in this world, and just expand on the feeling of what this world is that the characters live in.
Yeah, and that's something that Yooka-Laylee did very, very well. And that's... It showed that there is this mundane side of life to these weirdo characters that, you know... And that's something that Banjo-Tooie really elaborated on, but... I like those little glimpses, those little ideas that these characters just have regular lives like the rest of us. They just live in a slightly more fantastical environment filled with bizarre creatures. Like the tentacle boss from World 3. I like that he was just like so focused on watching his stories, and it was very, very much in line with the old school Rare characters, you know? But I know what I would want to see. Hardcore, Vendy, trouser intercourse.
This has been a File 2 production.
¡Qué rico!